They're still under oath. It is a new day. We are going to see where the prosecution starts with their cross-examination of Robert Costello. We also have joining us here this morning criminal defense attorney David Marcus, who was approached to defend Donald Trump in his classified documents case, as we reported at the time. And David, just looking at what happened yesterday, I wonder what you make of the entire Costello saga. And as a defense attorney, what you would have told your client if they were trying to put Bob Costello on the witness stand.
Yeah. Good morning, Caitlin. What a devastating day for the defense, right? It should have been a positive day for the defense, ending with this terrible witness, Michael Cohen. And now it was just an awful day for the defense. I look at cross-examination like a boxing match, right? The jury doesn't know the two boxers. They have to figure out which one they're going to root for. And when a witness tells a prosecutor something like speak into the mic, all the jurors, and you saw two of them, are going to side with the examiner, with the prosecution there, and not side with the witness. So it's just terrible the way it went down. And the weird thing is Costello knows better, right? He's a lawyer. He's been in that courtroom, in that courthouse. He knows better. So just an awful, awful day. And, you know, the defense took a big risk here and struck out very badly.
And I should note, we are told Costello just had a conversation with the judge, but it was not audible. It was off microphone, so that means we couldn't hear it. It's not clear if that was an apology or what that looked like. We'll see what our reporters who were in the room, if they could hear anything and discern anything. It will likely potentially be in the court transcript if we see what that looks like today, because those court reporters are seated right in front of the judge's bench and the witness stand. But it was remarkable because the judge has never lost it or gotten that furious inside the courtroom. He often is trying to be very diplomatic. You know, even when he scolded Trump for being audible during Stormy Daniels' testimony, he did so to the attorneys out of earshot of the jury and said that he was trying to be fair to the client. With Robert Costello, though, I mean, it happened. He had sent the jury out of the room, but we were all there to witness just his pure frustration with how this witness was handling his time on the stand.
Right. I mean, as a judge, you never want the story to be about you, right? Just like a referee doesn't want the game decided by the ref. They want it by the players. And unfortunately, the story has become about Costello and the judge. I mean, the judge, too, you know, he has run a very smooth trial in courtroom. But, you know, from the defense point of view, he let lots of stuff in with Stormy Daniels that the defense complained about. And he's really limited the defense, limited the expert witness, limited Costello to what he could talk to. So, you know, I can see why the defense is frustrated. You can't show that to the judge or the jury, though, or it's gonna be really bad. But I get why they're frustrated. They've been limited in what they can do. And really, the prosecution has been given a lot of rope here to call who they want and bring out testimony that they want.
Well, but on that point, okay, one, yesterday, Trump was claiming that they would not let their federal election expert testify. That's not true. I was inside the courtroom as they were talking about this. I've been in there twice now, I think, when they've been talking about this one expert that it now appears they're not planning to call. But essentially, the judge was saying that the testimony could be limited in scope because then the prosecution was going to feel the need to call their election expert witness, and it would be this battle of the experts where the jury was just kind of, you know, not led who was the right expert, who could they believe, and that it would be confusing. And then with Robert Costello, the judge was concerned it would become a trial within a trial, that, you know, Michael Cohen is not the defendant here. And sure, drawing questions about his credibility was fine, but he said he didn't want to get into a huge back and forth on Michael Cohen because he's a witness, he's not the defendant.
I mean, I hear you, Caitlin, but listen, we have battles of the experts in trials all the time. We let lawyers fight about credibility all the time. We had a trial within a trial when Stormy Daniels testified about what happened in that room. The judge expressed frustration after the fact, but the defense raised that issue before she testified. So, you know, this is the kind of thing where the defense is understandably upset. Listen, the judges, the public, the media typically are always against the defense. The defense just can't show it. They have to stand strong, just like the prosecutor stood strong yesterday when the witness told her to speak into the mic. You cannot let it affect you in court. You cannot show any problems, and they're showing. And the jury sees that, and you saw them look at each other. That is really, really bad. And anybody's going to tell you that. Although you don't know what a jury's going to do, when you see things like that, you cannot feel good as a defense lawyer. You're not feeling good about the jury right now.
Well, the jury, I mean, they haven't been ushered in and out of the courtroom as many times as they were yesterday afternoon. There were several moments where, when they were arguing about the C-SPAN witness, when they were arguing about the scheduling, and then, of course, the Robert Costello moment, the jury was in and out in what typically is just a 2.5 hour period in the afternoon. So even if they missed the Robert Costello moment where we were cleared out of the room and the press had to leave, where the judge really scolded him, do they pick up on that something is going on, that there is? I mean, you could kind of cut the tension in the room with a knife. Does the jury notice that kind of stuff?
The jury knows. These are smart New Yorkers. They know what's going on, and they pick up on all the little cues, not just from the lawyers, but from the judge as well. And so, the judge has to really make sure that he's not sending those negative defense vibes to the jury, because that really undercuts the defense. I will say one thing for the defense. They've been getting a lot of criticism, of course, for calling Costello. You have to take risks as a defense lawyer in a trial like this, or you're going to lose. Now, this risk didn't pan out, but if you don't take risks as a defense lawyer in court, you will lose 100 out of 100 times. So they must have believed they were losing at the point that they called Costello, because otherwise you wouldn't call him, right? If you believed you were winning the case, you rest at that point. But they must have believed or thought there was a chance they would lose the trial. And so why not take a chance and call Costello?
And right now, the jury is seeing an email from Michael Cohen to Robert Costello and his partner saying, "Gentlemen, please cease contacting me, as you do not and have never represented me in this or any other matter." I expect they'll see a lot more emails. There were certainly some negative vibes there yesterday, as you said. David Marcus, great to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Caitlin.